Beta Project's final show and tell. A lot of us on the call are really excited because this week...
Oh, sorry, something's just loaded in the background.
Pardon? Somebody say something? Okay, maybe not intentionally. This week represents the soft launch of our beta site, which we're really excited about. I'm Gavin Maguire from Snook, and I'm the director on this project. If we could go to the next slide, please. If I were to condense this to save time, because we have a lot to cover, we're going to give you a little bit of background and context on the standard, and then talk about what we did around the website, communications, and governance, and give you a demo of the website, as well as hoping to leave plenty of time for questions at the end. Could we go to the next slide, please? One more, please. Thanks. The project was conducted by ourselves, Snook, a research, design, and digital agency working mainly in the public and third sectors. In 2019, we conducted the initial discovery work around open community, along with our partner Porism, who is a technology company working a lot with local government, and Porism have been instrumental in the development and early implementation of the standard. If we could go to the next slide, please. Just to quickly mention that we've been working very closely with partners from councils involved in adopting early, as well as developing the standard. And we've also been working with MHCLG and the Local Government Association on this project. Next slide, please. The goal of this project is to develop in beta form the ecosystem needed to drive the adoption of the Open Referral UK data standard. Speaking of which, I'm now going to hand over to Mike from Porism to talk briefly about the standard itself.
Thanks, Gavin. So this is just a bit of background on the standard before we get onto the project deliverables. So the standard is a consistent way of recording and sharing information about services. And by services, we mean what's often called human services. So care at home, bike maintenance, meditation, women's support groups, the sort of things you might search for on the web, or a link worker, possibly a social prescriber within the health sector, may choose to refer somebody to, often to take a load off routine public sector services. The standard defines a few things which we say you must record about a service, but a lot of things you can record, like who's eligible, how far away it is, if you need to be referred or you can just show up, what the costs are, what the accessibility is. And it's designed such that any one organization can output data, whatever format they store it in, they can output it in a consistent way such that another can receive it and process it. And generic software can be developed according to the standard rather than systems having to be bespoke for every individual directory. So for example, a service finder tool can connect to any compliant service directory. And this is designed to address the problem of there being across the public sector numerous directories of varying quality, and often people create their own because they don't trust other people's. There may be different directories covering the same area, or directories covering adjacent areas, which would benefit from sharing and getting the service information right once, rather than each having their own go at it in a slightly different format that can't be shared. So that's what we're striving for. And if we look at the work that's gone on so far, I mean, we're not starting with a blank page. The LGA did work on exchanging services information back in 2017-18. And even before that, the Open Referral standard was established in about 2014 in the US. And discovery work performed by Snook in 2019 looked at the business case for applying a standard, looked at where it was mandated, for instance, for family and information service directories in local government, and saw what was out there and how it might be adopted in the UK context. And they even went as far as recommending some extensions to the Open Referral standard that was started in the US to make it suitable for the UK. So in 2019-20, DCMS funded some work that was managed by the Local Government Association, specifically around identifying services which address loneliness. But I think the LGA recognized that if you have an infrastructure that addresses loneliness, you can also apply that infrastructure to other needs. So they deployed an extension to the Open Referral standard that was defined by iStand UK, the UK local government standards body, which formally says how we apply and extend the Open Referral standard to use it across the UK, particularly for local and hyperlocal services. And that was implemented in a pilot project with 3 councils, Elmbridge, Hull and Blackburn with Darwin, and others who weren't formally part of the project like Bristol also applied it. So we got a fair degree of take-up of the standard there. And that was followed up by work led by Buckinghamshire to implement the standard in their Family Services Directory. We also put a bit of effort there in tying back with the US people. So we're working from one unified standard wherever possible. And those 2 bits of work have resulted in 3 major software providers, PlaceCube, Public Consulting Group and FutureGov, applying the standard in their standard products. We're now in a situation where we're just completing a beta project which aims at picking up on the learning and case studies from the work that's done so far, so the standard can be applied more widely across the UK. And although it's a beta project, we have a live site which presents case studies, tools for adopting guidance, along with technical guidance and some tools for actually using the data. And that's what we're going to come on and look at next.
Thank you, Mike. So I'm just going to talk a bit about the overview of the project, of the beta project, as Mike just mentioned. So we've been working on this for about 3 months now, and generally the first 3 sprints that we worked on were on research, and then we started to define the vision and the design as well. Then all the remaining sprints we're actually building, testing, and then iterating what we had built based on feedback and based on just like any more findings that we gathered. And we're now going to enter a kind of a 3-month period of custodianship, which we'll talk a little bit more about later. So what we actually delivered for beta, so yeah, we focused on these 3 areas again. So it was making sure, ensuring the Open Referral UK was easy for onboarding. Also wanted to, one of our other drivers was to drive awareness and adoption. And then we also wanted to ensure the standards future as well, which we did through a governance structure. And for the user groups that we spoke with during beta, we focused on decision makers that could drive or influence standards adoption. So there was local authorities and their partners, there were software suppliers, and there were national bodies as well. And for each of those, we outlined potential roles as well that we would be speaking with, or we spoke with.
Thanks, Harry. Hi, so my name is Ilsa, and I'm the product manager and project lead for this project. I'm going to be standing in for Olu, who is our researcher on the project who isn't available today. So for our research during this beta, we focused on 2 main methods. So we started with user interviews. That was very much around framing the project and what we thought we needed to deliver for beta. So really understanding the adoption process and any barriers or challenges. This was research that wasn't really covered in the previous discovery, because the discovery was very much focused on the ecosystem and understanding if there was a need for a standard for community services data. Now that we've established that, we had the opportunity to interview people who had been part of the alpha and the other pilot projects and really understand the process of adoption for them. And then the second part of the project was usability testing. So that's part of our building and iterating. We used a website prototype to test with users to understand whether it met their needs and could convince them of the benefits of adopting the standard. And after each session of testing, we would iterate on the design and content pretty much ready for the next session. So it was a very agile way of working. We did a few other methods of gathering information during the project that were less major. So tree testing was something we used to test the information architecture for the Open Referral UK site. And show and tells were actually a really good method for us to engage with the community, and we used those to ask questions and gather feedback on our work. In terms of the findings, I won't go into too much detail for this slide, but we have sort of 7 main findings that we identified both through the stakeholder and research interviews, but also from user testing. Kind of skimming through and highlighting some main ones. Definitely the importance of convincing. So number 1 there, explaining the benefits of adopting the standard. Like a lot of the benefits of adopting the data standard are sort of more further out and communal compared to direct cost savings, although those are also there. And finding the right way to convey the larger benefits as well as the direct benefits of adoption is really important. Number 5, case studies came up again and again in pretty much every round of user testing that we did. So that was a big focus for us on the content side. And then, yeah, like a lot of other like quite like things that we knew before starting the project, but were really validated through the interviews. So number 7, the need for like a consistent governance standard. Like it wasn't clear what the governance of the standard was currently at the time that we started the project, and that definitely led to a lack of confidence around adoption because users didn't know if the standard would stay relevant and be updated to meet their needs. Yeah, a lot of interesting things, but I won't go into detail with all of them now. And essentially the interviews were very much used to frame kind of our vision and these 3 main areas that Harry described earlier. So the website, communications and engagement, and governance. And then the user testing was, yeah, I mentioned this already, directly incorporated into the designs and development. So now I'll hand it over to Chia, I think.
Yes, thanks, Elsa. Hi, I'm Chia. I'm interaction designer in this project, and I'm going to talk about like the detail about digital products. So here's a list about we are delivered the products. So absolutely like a website and the content management system for updating the website, and online form for the community can have interaction, and also developer side, which you actually can see in the navigation bar there, and also like promotional video about OR UK. So, and also we are going to show the demo in the lecture section. And next slide. Also, I mentioned about like the current website, current version we're going to develop, and there's a future version we include like few pages. So mainly is like a dashboard about open data sharing, and you can see create a page for the organization. Maybe they can have engage more about sharing the information, sharing APIs. And another form page is join the community. Currently, we use the Google Form as temporary channel, but we are keen to have like a page in the website for the join the community for people engagement directly. And I'm going to head over to Ananda talk about the process about design development.
Hi, thanks, Chair. Yeah, my name's Ananda. I'm an interaction designer on this project as well. So I'm just going to talk you briefly through the design process for the website and some of the goals and activities that we did. So you can see here kind of the key stages that we went through. So based on the research, kind of one of the key aspects of the website was retargeting the website to appeal more to decision makers and the less technical audiences. So to support that, we created a new information architecture so that we could include the content required by those audiences. And then based on that, we did a few rounds of wireframes. So these were interactive wireframes that we ran usability testing with. And then we created a visual identity to help support the approach of trying to make it more approachable for target audiences. And then finally, we produced the visual web page designs. So just onto the next slide, just a little bit more detail on each of those steps. So this is the kind of overview of the information architecture. So we were trying to create a logical flow through this kind of journey of understanding what Open Referral UK is and what it can do, and how it's useful and the benefits, and also creating space to kind of describe the background and the context to the standard in a less technical way. And we also made sure that the information architecture supported the kind of promotion and adoption of the community and the case studies, which came back as some of the key areas of focus for the user needs and what people wanted essentially from the research. So next slide. Yeah, thank you. So yeah, based on the information architecture, we came up with some initial wireframes to help us test that new structure and the content that we were working on with our content designer, Anne, who's not on this call, and some of the features of that website. And we went through a number of rounds of user testing and updating these wireframes and refining them. And then alongside this, on the next slide, we can see we were developing a new kind of visual identity for Open Referral UK. So it includes a logo, but also kind of a design library so that we have a consistent voice across the website and tools and all the different kind of touch points. And we also created this design library so that it would be easier for handing this work over to the kind of custodian side of the project, which will be taking this forwards. And without further ado, I suppose it's time for a demo. So the final designs are now in the live website.
Yeah, so I think I'm going to take over this section. So for anyone that hasn't met me before, I'm Niall. I'm a software developer and I work at Snook. So here is the website kind of as it's standing just now. So I've got kind of a couple of different ways of showing this, but very quickly before jumping in, I was going to show that everything's kind of fully responsive for mobile, and it looks pretty nice on your phone, which I can hold up if that's not too silly. It's a thing to do. Why do we all need to be so hi-fi? It looks really good, it looks really nice. And yeah, so here's how it's looking. The homepage kind of like gives a little bit of background as to what Open Referral UK is, what the standard is, what problems it solved. We kind of link off to various sections of the website from here, but they're also accessible from the header and the footer. There's kind of like, yeah, nice little pull quotes, things like that. A little kind of quick overview of some of the organizations that are involved. There is a much wider list of these organizations and kind of like what categories they fall under and what stage they are of adopting the standard and things. And right into the footer. And again, we can kind of get involved with things from here and kind of navigate the website this way. So something that's not here just now, but is going to be on the homepage by the end of today is that we've just got a video back, which is basically a UK port of the video for the Open Referral like international standard, which was done in American, but it's got like a nice kind of UK voiceover and it feels very friendly, very nice. So we're going to include that on the homepage. I'll kind of quickly click through a few other sections of this kind of core website. There's like an about page, which shows like motivations for adopting, a little bit about like the open data standards generally, a little bit about the fact it comes from a US organization, some stuff about, there's a lot of things for like the US spellings and things like that. There's also a little bit about how it works, but steps to adopting, which is very much a step-by-step process about getting involved with the standard if your organization's considering it. There's also a bit about features of the standard. So yeah, there's lots and lots of stuff in here. We have a community section. So something which is probably quite important here is the case studies. So we have various case studies which like feature organizations which have adopted the standard and kind of like they talk through their process of doing that and the kind of advantages they have from those things. There's also, as I mentioned before, this kind of bigger organizations page, which includes stakeholders, people who are commissioning directory of services, people who are supplying directory software, people who are consuming an open referral compliant API, so people who are using the data that we're giving out from this. And there's one organization which like helps maintain some service data. So yeah, they're all kind of listed here. There's lots of links to their sites. If there's like appropriate case studies we can link to from there. Lots and lots of organizations involved already. And there's a quick kind of contact us page. So in terms of the main website, I think that covers like, yeah, quickly kind of giving an overview as to like the background of the standard and steps to adopt. But there's also a couple of other sections. So one of the kind of big links we have here is this for developers section. I don't think I've missed anything off this main one. If I have, please feel free to jump in, anyone at all. So the for developers section is here. So this is much of the content that we had from the alpha phase. Dom, are you on the call just now?
Yeah, I'm Nicole. I think I'm supposed to be doing this bit, but sorry. Yeah, so this is much of the content. Yeah, like you say, thanks, Niall. This is a lot of the content we had in the original alpha phase, and we've kind of ported it over into the new style with new accessibility and UX improvements. And if you go under the data standards, you can see that it's got guidance for the both the standard, and this will help you actually implement it yourself. And same for the API, so it also helps you get into implementing the API there. We've created 2 new tools during this iteration to help you implement the standard. The first is the validator, and that's quite important because it will actually validate your service directory, tell you where you're going wrong or how you can improve, and give you an overview of your data, and help you get the most out of the standard and ensure that perhaps the suppliers have delivered the standard correctly, or that you've been given the service directory to the standard. The next tool we created was the service exporter. This allows data custodians to see actually what they've got in the service directory, so they can actually get a complete view of all the data that's in there, because it can be it's in as a Google spreadsheet, so it actually allows you to see it in spreadsheet form, which can be quite useful. And we've also got the third tool, which is a one we developed in the alpha stage, which is the API query tool, and this allows you to see how you can actually, so it allows you to make calls via a wizard, and will actually show you every call you've got on the side there to allow you to see how it works in the back end, really, how you can build it up in your own application. I think that's it for this. Thanks for driving, Niall.
All good. Maybe there's one other kind of subdomain type work I was going to show, which I might do it the same way, if that's okay, Yemi. Yeah, so another part of this application. Oh yeah, so I should say as well, Dom's a developer from Porism and Yemi's another developer from Snook, and we'll all work together on kind of building this phase of the project. So another part of this is the community forum section. I'm not sure there's anything specifically you want to shout out here, Yemi.
Okay, thank you, Niall. Yes, just that we set up the community forum, which is has a self-join capability, so users can self-join. It also have the option, which I know was a concern for a number of people involved in the project, for moderation, so full control over the content on there and the users as well. Obviously, we set this up as an area really to serve as a meeting place for community members to share ideas and to share knowledge and discuss ideas as well. And some of you have already had an opportunity to go on there and add some content, and I do hope you did find it easy to use. Thank you, Niall. That's me.
Niall, one quick thing. I resent, by the way, your implications around American accents, but we'll talk about that later. But I was just wondering if you could show very quickly the join our community form, because I think it's kind of the beginning of a loop that allows us to present that growing mass of participants to help give confidence in the standard.
Yeah, so absolutely. We kind of had a big plan for having people to join through a page on the website, but we ultimately just kind of ran out of time on that one, but there's designs done for it, which I think we're going to talk about soon. So yeah, there's a big link for join our community. It appears at various places across the website. For now, it's just a Google form, which is like a very efficient way of doing it. We would have liked to have integrated this into the site. But yeah, as I say, there's potential to do that in the future. And yeah, I guess this is kind of how we're going to have people. It's one way of getting people involved with the website. It's one way that we can consider, you know, showcasing them on the site and building up a community that way around. And yeah, I guess just putting in their details and reaching out. Yeah, the forum also being another place that we can kind of build that community of people who are adopting the standard. Thanks for jumping in.
Thanks, Niall.
Great, I can present the screen again, if you don't mind me just booting you off now. So yeah, that was our demo. I'm going to talk a little bit about the comms and engagement. So that Robin from Snook worked on this for us, but she's not available today. And as we discussed, it's one of the so one of the three main areas of the project. We really quickly identified that, you know, we can build a beautiful, and it is beautiful, website, but what's the use of that if we don't have a strategy to bring people there and to kind of gather buy-in about the standard through other methods? So for the strategy, these are the same target audiences or user groups that we showed at the beginning of the presentation. And we have kind of written a little bit that I'll show in the next slide about communication strategies for each. So we have provided this as a deliverable as well, like a comms and engagement strategy. And during the project, as in the name of service design, we also prototyped these comms. So that was in the form of blog posts, sending a few newsletter emails, which we have some stats on that we're handing over. And the show and tells themselves are a form of webinar. And that's definitely something we learned has been very valuable for the community. So here are the 5 main communications methods we've proposed. I think case study is arguably not a method of communication, but it's definitely something very important for the comms strategy. We identify one-on-one conversations as important, both for kind of adopters and early adopters themselves to gain confidence in the standard and understand and unblock support issues, but also very much for sort of national bodies and other entities that might be very influential in supporting the standard. So strategic one-on-one conversations. The forum is something that we've demoed and mentioned again, a key part of engagement. We also set up a newsletter and have sent a few mailings, and we'll do another one to announce the launch of the site before the end of this week. And yeah, case studies and webinars. So one really big learning from these show and tells was just that the community of people, so you all and some more, who are engaged with the standard had a real desire to not just hear from us, but also talk and connect with each other, and like have those further conversations. And it was really after that first show and tell where we were like, wow, we really do need to make a forum so that these things could be continued and have more events. So a big learning there. And now I'll hand over to Mike to talk about the governance part.
Thanks, Ailsa. So we've looked at a number of projects that have led to where we are now, some funded by MHCLG's local digital initiative, some through the LGA. And although we've talked about individual projects, Open Referral UK is an ongoing standard that needs to be supported or self-sustaining through a program that people have confidence in. So we put some work into defining how it would be governed. This is by no means complete, but there's a draft paper out there, and we've consulted in particular health and local government people in the voluntary sector, and we recognise that there are others such as education that look at special educational needs and disabilities and family service directories, and there are DWP welfare people and other sectors that need to be involved. And there is a crossover with the international standard run out of the US. So over the coming period, and now that the Open Referral UK site is live and ready to help people adopt, we need over the next few months to set in place that plan to ensure it's managed long term, and ultimately is paid for by those parts of the public and or private sectors that benefit from it. So we've done a bit of work on that, and there is more work to come, and we will share papers on that. If we essentially, this is the structure that we saw. A board, some people say it should just be called a committee, that oversees it and makes sure the different sectors of public and voluntary and private sector are represented, followed by working groups that look at operationally how it works and the technical details, leading to hopefully backwards compatible small incremental improvements to the standard. And they probably need to be supported by a small, lightweight, commissioned secretariat and support service that does the routine work to make sure that the cogs keep turning. So that's what we're striving for. And if we move on to the next slide, we'll see how we hope to get to that. So Pourism primarily will be looking after the standard and the site for at least the next 3 months. And we've kind of seen it through in the gaps between phases so far. Our aim is to push up adoption and see the extent to which the site helps with that. We have an email address that you can use to contact us. But we also have that online forum that we've shown, and some of the key stakeholders from MHCLG, the local authorities that have driven this, and the LGA have already contributed to that forum. And we're now be making it more widely available, and I will be encouraging any non-personal communication to go into that forum so we can share expertise, and it's very much a self-help thing rather than things coming out from the centre. So we'll see how that goes over the next few months and through to the end of July, when Pourism has this formal role in seeing the standard through. We'll keep the communications going, so I urge anyone that's not signed up so far to the newsletter to sign up. We'll go on taking the case studies in, and we'll update the site as required. And I'm hoping that we can bring in some of the enhancements that Chia talked about that didn't quite make it to the beta. But we'll very much intend to respond to live feedback to see how the site really works. So if we look at the next slide, which is the roadmap from here, we're seeing the next 3 months as covering that short-term thing on the left and the ongoing tasks along the bottom. So in the short term, as well as keeping the site going, we're looking at how we can gather more feedback and perhaps give more hand-holding to some of the early adopters than might be needed once the standard is more mature. There's a MHCLG driven formal launch event, which is happening in June, which will be included in, and you'll see blogs going out about the site. But we'll also do a bit more work at looking at what is needed to embed the standard more long-term in the public sector. So seeing it through the approvals process of the Government Data Service Standards Board. It's already been submitted to that, and we're hoping it will get approval in the next couple of months. And seeing what's needed in order to get the necessary funding to keep the infrastructure going over the long term. And I'll be speaking with the stakeholder local authorities in MHCLG about that in the coming months. And then along the bottom is what we see as carrying on forever, which is basically hosting of the site, continual gathering of feedback, and making sure that the forum is well moderated and that people feel the standard is meeting their needs.
Great, thanks, Mike. So we're actually all done with our talking, and I'm going to stop presenting so we can look at each other, and I'd love to open the floor for questions. So feel free to type in the chat, or we'd be very happy if you wanted to just go off mute and ask us anything about the project. So the deliverables, the roadmap, the next steps, and anything that you would like to know more about. Yes. Thanks, Joe. And we'll also share the recording, and the recordings of our previous 3 show and tells are available. We can share that in the email as well, if you'd like to watch all 4. Yeah, we'll share that too. Thanks, Matt.
It's a nice prompt, Kevin. Sorry, it's just started hailing here. I've got loads of noise. I barely hear myself. But yeah, I did just want to say thank you, because this has been an enormous piece of work over years and years now. And I know some of the folks have been involved just in this period of time, but this is, really has been a huge effort by lots of people to get us to where we are, and genuinely feels like we're kind of on the cusp of getting this thing to really fly, and all of this work has got us to that next point. So, getting through the data standards approval, having this new community and the site and all of the governance thinking around it as well means I think we're off to the races, really. It's quite exciting stuff. So yeah, we're in Essex now. I've slowly starting to kind of get this into colleagues in tech and data, so they understand what we've been doing, and we're kind of noodling around looking for some opportunities to influence colleagues, particularly in children's services, who have got a fairly messy information system set up, I would say. So we're finding some opportunities, and hopefully we'll be able to add Essex to the list of folks using this fairly soon as well. But yeah, just a big thank you, everybody.
I don't know if anybody here would like to kind of just chime in and share a bit about why they're here and what they kind of came for and what they've been interested to follow about this project. It would be interesting to know.
Hiya, I don't mind chiming in as the stop any awkward silences. My name's Claire Hewitt. I come from a company called Public Consulting Group. So we actually worked on the whole Open Referral project about making the data from the adult directory of services sort of integrate and make the data available and shareable. It's also interesting what Ben said about Essex, because we currently do the Living Well Essex adult site, which is currently up for discussion about upgrading it. So there might be an interesting conversation to be had there, Ben, about applying the Open Referral standard to the adults directory within Essex. But really, I was just here to keep up to date and see what's going on. Just signed up to the forum. Website looks good. Thank you very much. That's it, really.
That's great, Claire. It was nice working with you in Hull, and I think Digital Gaps helped with the implementation there. And I'm hoping that we can switch the standard on in the many other implementations that PCG has around the country. And thank you for all the work you've done so far.
Yeah, no problem at all. The challenge we find really is trying to explain to our customers that you need to abide by a standard. The clue is in the name. And quite often, they're keen to apply a standard theoretically until they then want, but I want it this way and with these attributes and these different bits and pieces. And that's where we find the challenges, really.
I'm hoping some of the content will help you with that. And it sounds like you've got an easy ride in Essex because Ben knows all about it.
Well, you've just dropped Ben in it now, haven't you?
Yeah, it isn't easy. I really appreciate you saying a little bit there, Claire, because like we do understand kind of for software suppliers with existing products, it's it's hard to know where that pivot point is of like, well, do we actually commit now to making changes to our product? But is this a standard that's going to be used, adopted? Because it's a lot of effort if it potentially fizzles away. And yeah, having product managers or service owners in the organization, as you say, who first of all understand it, but then care about it enough to potentially fight off, other colleagues who want this feature or this little thing that they think is a great idea, and to have a conversation about those trade-offs is really hard. It's really, really hard to do. So yeah, I'll have a chat with folks who are looking at the Living Well stuff. That's a good reminder. That's on our list of things to get to one day.
Okay, well, I'll get in touch with you as well. I think there's another question in the chat that's come up.
Mike, do you have an answer or thoughts on this one?
I'm suspecting that 360 giving. Yes, I mean there are two ways in which our scope can expand. One is in better integration with the US, and another one is better integration with complementary or overlapping standards. And I think 360 giving is an excellent example of an international standard that has a well-maintained and supporting infrastructure. The question makes reference to the retired registers service. And I should say that the standard does make reference to what may be seen as URI sets for the techies, but essentially, is agnostic as to which taxonomies and which formal registered resources it references. But I think this does highlight the need for an infrastructure across government, and local digital is funding a number of projects which do overlap with Open Referral UK. For instance, the Savvy standard on identifying vulnerable people and then referring the relevant services to them. And there are standards elsewhere in government that share the same taxonomies. So there is a need for an infrastructure which ties all of these together. And we're hoping that Open Referral UK will kind of lead some of the drive to that, but we are not sufficiently influential to join all the dots. Having Open Referral UK adopted as a GDS approved, or dare I say even mandated for central government standard, will take us a long way towards setting up that infrastructure, and it should make it easier for complementary standards to link in with. I hope that answers the question. If not, then we should take it offline or better to the forum 360 giving, and do feel free to chip in there. The register service as a source of organizational identifiers. Okay, we're getting into some details here. There are sources of organizational identifiers like the Charities Commission, charity identifiers, and Companies House company identifiers. There is potentially a need for one for organizations that don't cut across either of those. Because I know one of the things the standard supports is the ability to bring in multiple directories and aggregate them, add them up to have one hopefully unique list of services covering a locality, or indeed covering the whole of the UK. And that requires a degree of deduplication. And unless we have a common way of identifying duplicate organizations and duplicate services, we have a problem there. And a set of identifiers would help a lot with that. Just as it would help to have an open address list. There are lots of things in government that we need to work on. And I I probably shouldn't comment more on the dropping of registers. It's a pity, but all I can say is from an Open Referral UK point of view, we're sure that this is not something that will be dropped, but something you have confidence will live on and be properly supported.
All right, I can't sit with it anymore. Thank you so much for everyone who has kind of had a bit of a chat. Thanks, Claire and Ben. Please, like, we're so open for feedback with everything that's coming next. As mentioned earlier, we'll send out the recording and all of the decks and links. We'd love you to sign up to the newsletter because that'll be the main way to keep in contact with this project going forward. I'll just post that again so that it's if someone could post it again, just so that it's at the bottom of the chat so that everyone clicks on it, that'd be great. And yeah, have a great rest of Thursday, and thank you for joining and supporting our project, everyone.
Thank you for your time.
Thanks, folks.
Thank you, everyone. Cheers.
Thank you.
Thanks
Bye.
a lot, everybody.
Thanks all.
Bye-bye.
Bye.